Have you ever looked at some older people and thought, wow, how do they still do that? Aging has its own rhythm. Some slow down, some pause, and then there are a rare few real gems who seem to shine brighter with each passing year. They still do things most people their age gave up long ago, and it's not always what you'd expect. These actions aren't about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. They're quieter, more meaningful, and far more impressive than they first appear. In today's video, we're going to explore 5 unexpected things that, if you're still doing them between the ages of 70 and 85, make you a true 1 in a million gem. These aren't everyday habits, they're signs of rare emotional strength, sharpness, and wisdom. Traits that don't fade with time, but deepen if you nurture them. Maybe you'll find yourself nodding along, recognizing something in your own life. Or maybe you'll see a loved one reflected in these qualities. Either way, you'll come away with a clearer picture of just how extraordinary some people really are. So, if you're someone who still believes in growth, kindness, independence, and laughter, stick around. You might just realize you've become the kind of person others admire more than you ever knew. Let's begin. Number 1. Still learning new skills there. Something quietly remarkable about someone in their 70s or 80s who still approaches life with the mindset of a beginner. If you're still learning new skills, maybe using a smartphone for the first time, trying your hand at painting, mastering video calls with the grandkids, or even picking up a new language, you're showing a rare and powerful mental agility that defies every stereotype about aging. Most people slow down, not just physically but mentally. They settle into routines, repeat familiar tasks, and gradually stop reaching for new information. But people who keep learning are wired differently. They stay curious, mentally active, and, perhaps most importantly, open to change. That openness is a treasure. Just like muscles need exercise, the brain needs challenge. While physical activity keeps the body young, learning new things keeps the mind young. Seniors who continue learning, especially after retirement, often have better memory, sharper thinking, and a more positive outlook on life. They wake up with purpose, excited to explore something new. Take Frank, a 78-year-old former school janitor who decided to learn piano. He'd never touched a keyboard in his life but watched videos online, practiced each morning after breakfast, and slowly taught himself simple melodies. It wasn't about performing on stage, it was about the quiet joy of doing something new. Now years later, he plays for his great-grandkids when they visit. His hands may move slower, but his mind is vibrant. Stories like Frank's aren't rare among lifelong learners. Whether it's watercolor painting, joining a community class on local history, or figuring out a new tablet, these actions say something deeper. You still believe in your ability to grow, and that belief ripples out into every part of your life. Psychologists have long known that people who keep learning tend to have stronger self-esteem and better emotional resilience. Why? Because each new thing you learn reminds you that you're capable, still evolving, and that no matter your age, you can still surprise yourself. In a world that assumes older adults have nothing new to discover, being a learner sets you apart. It keeps you relevant, not just in conversations with younger folks, but in how you relate to the world around you. You're not stuck in the past, you're part of the present. So, if you're in your 70s or 80s and still picking up new skills, take a moment to realize how rare that is. You're not just passing the time, you're showing the world that you still have more to experience and more to give. In doing so, you quietly inspire everyone who knows you. Number 2. Offering emotional support to others there. A quiet strength in being the person others turn to when life feels heavy. If you're between 70 and 85 and people still lean on you for emotional support, whether it's a neighbor needing advice, a younger family member looking for comfort, or an old friend sharing their burdens, you're doing something truly rare. You're offering the calm, steady presence that the world deeply needs but only a few are able to give. Emotional support isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's in a gentle nod, a knowing smile, or the way you listen without rushing to respond. It's in the simple way you say, "I've been there," and suddenly someone else doesn't feel so alone. When you've lived through decades of love, loss, change, and growth, your wisdom becomes your superpower. And what makes this so special is how rare it becomes with age. Many people begin to shrink into themselves as they grow older, feeling overlooked or disconnected. But not you. If you're still showing up for others emotionally, still making space for their stories and struggles, you've held on to something incredibly valuable, your sense of empathy. And empathy, especially at your age, is more than kindness. It's courage. It means you've walked through life's storms but haven't let them make you cold. You've stayed open. You've stayed kind. That alone sets you apart. Think of Betty, an 82-year-old widow who started volunteering at a local grief support group after losing her husband. She didn't have a psychology degree. She didn't come in with all the answers. What she brought was her presence. When she spoke, people listened. When she stayed quiet, people felt safe. Her simple ability to be there became the most healing part of the group. People like Betty don't just offer advice, they offer peace. And if you're someone who does that too, you're more than supportive. You're a rare light in a world that often moves too fast and feels too noisy. You give people a place to land when they feel unsteady. Psychologically, older adults who keep providing emotional care tend to feel more fulfilled. It reinforces your sense of purpose and keeps your heart connected to those around you. And it shows that no matter what you've been through, you've chosen to remain loving and connected. That's not common. It's incredibly special. If at your age you're still lifting others up when they're down, you're doing something many half your age still struggle to master. You prove that strength doesn't always come from muscles or memory. It comes from compassion. Number 3. Staying curious about the world. There's something deeply inspiring about someone in their 70s or 80s who still lights up with curiosity. If you're the kind of person who keeps asking questions, who still enjoys learning, who picks up a new book or watches documentaries, not just to pass time, but to understand more about the world, then you are a true gem. Why? Because staying curious at this stage of life is far more powerful than most people realize. As we age, it's easy, too easy, really, for our worlds to shrink. Routines tighten. The familiar feels safer, and we start to believe that everything worth learning has already been learned. But not you. If you still wake up wondering, what can I discover today? You're doing something rare and remarkable. Curiosity keeps the brain alive. Studies show seniors who remain mentally engaged and open to new information have better memory, lower risk of cognitive decline, and greater emotional resilience. That's not just theory, that's science. Curiosity builds new connections in the brain. It keeps your mind flexible, your perspective fresh, and your spirit young. Think about Howard, a retired mailman in his late 70s who decided to take up astronomy after watching a documentary about the stars. He bought a simple telescope, joined a local stargazers club, and now spends evenings charting constellations and learning about planets. He says, "It makes me feel small, but in a good way, like I'm still part of something bigger." That's the gift of curiosity. It reminds you the world is still wide, even when your body may not be as quick as it once was. And curiosity doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as asking your grandson about his video game, or reading about a new philosophy that challenges your beliefs. The point is, you haven't shut the door on growth. You still see life as an open book, not a closed chapter. Psychologically, this attitude keeps people emotionally balanced and hopeful. Curious people tend to be less judgmental and more adaptable. They navigate changes, whether in society, technology, or relationships, with more grace, because they're not afraid to say, "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out." In a world where cynicism often grows with age, your curiosity is a quiet rebellion. It says you haven't given into apathy, you haven't stopped caring. You're still engaged, still fascinated, still alive in the truest sense. If that sounds like you, please know, your mind is a rare gift, not because you have all the answers, but because you're still eager to ask the questions, and that, especially in your golden years, is a shining example to everyone around you. Number 4. Speaking kindly about yourself. If you're between 70 and 85 and you've learned to speak kindly about yourself, that's extraordinary and rare. It's a sign of real strength. You see, aging often brings unexpected self-doubt. We reflect more, we remember our mistakes, we wonder if we were good parents, good partners, good people. Sadly, many older adults let those questions become lifelong self-punishment. But you, if you've made peace with your past and learned to talk to yourself like a dear friend, that's no small feat. It takes strength to speak softly to your own heart. It takes wisdom to look in the mirror and see not just wrinkles or regrets, but decades of experience. That kind of inner voice doesn't just happen. It's built through years of hardship, through letting go, through realizing that perfection was never the goal, growth was. Psychologists often say that the way we speak to ourselves becomes our emotional home. If that home is full of judgment, we shrink. If it's full of compassion, we thrive. So if you've created a gentle, forgiving voice inside you, you've built a sanctuary, one that shields your mind from bitterness, your spirit from resentment, and your relationships from unnecessary strain. Take Margaret, a retired nurse in her 80s. She once said, "I used to beat myself up for not doing enough. Now I say, Margaret, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time." That one shift helped her sleep better at night. That's not just healing, that's wisdom in action. Here's something powerful. People who speak kindly to themselves often speak kindly to others, too. That means you're probably a source of peace for your family, friends, and even strangers. Your words carry. Your presence reminds others that it's okay to be imperfect and still be worthy of love. In a world that constantly tells us we're never enough, not young enough, not healthy enough, not productive enough, your self-compassion is a quiet act of rebellion. You're telling the world, and yourself, that being enough isn't something you earn. It's something you recognize. So if you catch yourself saying, "I've lived a good life," or "I like who I am today," take a moment to appreciate that, because that mindset didn't come easy. It's the result of 1,000 inner battles won, the kind most people will never see. That makes you not just rare, but remarkable. If you're finding these insights helpful, Comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a new video. Your support helps us keep creating content that informs and inspires. Number 5. Staying curious about life. If at age 70, 75, or even 85, you're still curious, still asking questions, still reading, still exploring new ideas, you're a rare and beautiful soul. Curiosity in your golden years isn't just a trait, it's a quiet declaration that your spirit is still very much alive. That makes you one in a million, because here's the truth, most people eventually stop asking why, or how, or what else. They settle into routines and assume they've learned everything worth knowing. But if you're someone who still picks up books, tries new foods, watches documentaries, or asks your grandkids about their interests, that's more than impressive. It's inspiring. Staying curious is one of the best ways to stay young at heart. It keeps your mind active, your outlook fresh, and your relationships richer. It means you haven't let life slow you down into passivity. You're still reaching, still growing, still willing to be surprised by the world. And there's real science behind this. Studies show that older adults who stay intellectually curious tend to have better memory, sharper thinking, and lower levels of depression. Curiosity creates movement, not just in your body, but in your mind and spirit. It gives you something to look forward to. It invites surprise. And surprise is one of the core ingredients of joy. Take Robert, a 78-year-old gentleman from Arizona. Every morning he watches an educational video about history, nature, or science. He says it gives him something new to think about every day. One day, it's the mating habits of penguins. The next, it's how coffee beans are processed in Ethiopia. I may never travel again, he says, but my mind goes somewhere new. Every day, that's the power of curiosity. Curiosity also helps you connect across generations. When you ask your grandkids about TikTok or what they're reading, or how 3D printing is changing medicine, you're building bridges. You're saying, I'm still part of the conversation. It doesn't just connect you to others, it reminds you that you still matter. Never underestimate the power of that. When people see someone your age still learning and exploring, it gives them hope. It proves that aging doesn't have to mean shrinking. The mind and soul can keep expanding right to the very end. So if you still light up when you learn something new, if you still say, that's interesting, when someone shares a fact, if you still sit in quiet awe at a sunset or a bird you've never seen before, you're truly a gem. Your curiosity is a light. In a world that often dims with age, your light stands tall and steady. Final thoughts. If you've made it this far, and you're nodding, smiling, or even feeling a little emotional, that tells me something important. You still care about growing. You still want to know that your efforts, your choices, your heart, they all still matter. And I promise you, they do now more than ever. Reaching 70, 80, or beyond isn't the end of your story. It's a powerful chapter, filled with wisdom, depth, and beauty that younger people can't yet imagine. But it's easy to forget that when society tries to write you off, when your body doesn't move like it used to, or when loneliness creeps in. That's why recognizing and honoring these 5 things you're still doing is so important. Whether it's speaking kindly when bitterness would be easier, holding on to your independence, setting boundaries, offering quiet generosity, or keeping your spark of curiosity alive, these aren't small habits. They're quiet miracles. Maybe people around you don't say it enough. Maybe you're too humble to point it out. But just because it's unspoken doesn't mean it's unseen. You are the kind of person others look at and quietly admire. You prove that age doesn't dim our light, it refines it. So don't ever let anyone tell you what you do doesn't count. It does. Not just for you, but for everyone watching, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, even strangers. In the grocery store, the way you live tells a story, and it's one worth sharing. You are not ordinary. You are not just getting by. You're doing something rare, holding on to your humanity, your dignity, your curiosity, and your compassion in a world that too often asks people to let those things go. That's why you're a 1 in a million gem, and I hope you never forget it. Thank you for spending time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today or how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts matter to us. Reading your comments gives us motivation and encouragement. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your support helps us keep creating content that informs and inspires. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.